Well, dude, first of all, thank you for joining us in such short notice tonight. I really appreciate what you've been doing, and I think a lot of people see that as well, because I just played a short clip out of all the timestamps that I have set up over here from your latest upload, and I don't think you've heard this enough, but what you've done in this last upload is more truthful and more edifying than months worth of corporate media spin jobs. So thank you on that. So are you from New York? How did you just think to go and start covering this?
Yeah, I'm actually from Utah. And so it's kind of interesting. I went to the border in Arizona and I was just there for a conference. And I thought, wow, it might be interesting to go to the border, see what's going on. And I speak Spanish. I used to live in Chile in South America for 2 years. So I speak Spanish. I went there. I went to talk to all the immigrants. And then as I was leaving the border, I gave my WhatsApp number to two immigrants with my phone number on it. And they texted me a week later saying, "Hey, do you remember us? We're now in New York." And so I was like, "What? How'd you guys get to New York?" And then like I didn't really think much about it. And then I was like, it would be a crazy video idea if I found out what their lives are like after they cross the border. And so I went down to New York to track them down and see what really happens.
Well, let's start with the actual traveling. I mean, what did you get out of them as far, because people, this is what the average person knows. We have a completely unattended border. We understand that the behavior down there is being encouraged. There's no way that this happens by happenstance or it's just what it is. But after we see all of these crazy videos of tens of thousands of people just huddled around the border and then moving over in these massive hordes, that's the last we hear about it until we hear that 25,000 of them show up in Chicago, 15,000 show up in DC or New York, whatever. What could they say about the distribution process from the border with the buses, with the trains, whatever? What was that trek like from the border to New York?
Yeah, so very interesting question. And I asked these immigrants that as well because I was like, how are you guys getting here? And a lot of them are taking buses, and the government gives them the money so they can take the bus. That way they get sent there to New York, to Chicago. So I met a few people that had got sent there by bus, and then I met another lady who had got sent there by plane. And I asked her how she got the money. She said a friend sent her the money when she got there, which is kind of interesting. So she had a friend that was already here, and then she sent her the money at the airport. But what's really interesting about that is at the airport, they had translators there for the legal immigrant to know how to get through the airport because they don't speak English. And so they're having all these workers, they have social workers that are supplying all this stuff for these immigrants so that way they can get sent into these cities, which is what I found kind of mind-boggling.
That is such an, I mean, obviously you must have just done some loose math in your head. How incredible the amount of resources that is being invested in this. The fact that you haven't been in the country more than a couple of days, and not only are you being paid and subsidized to travel another 1,000 miles, but once you get there, you have a team of legal representatives and translators waiting for you. I mean, that isn't, Americans don't even get this kind of treatment.
No, it's really not. It's not right, and there's some weird things about it too because they take them from the border, they put them in a bus, and there's there's tons of buses at these border encampments, and they take them to another place. They take them to the migration facility, and then from there, it's really interesting too because there they get rid of all their clothes, anything that they brought over the border, they get rid of them for drugs, anything like that, and then they give them new clothes. And then they give them a phone on top of that with a portable charger, and then they actually have to report themselves every week and take photos and document where they're at with that phone that the government gives them. So someone's profiting off the clothes and the phone, and then on top of that, they give them food at the place as well.
And there's also a data collection aspect to this that I can't off the top of my head think of how it's profiting somebody. Obviously, they want to know in a loose sense where the people that have no identity whatsoever otherwise are in the country, but that's just very loose because, of course, if they don't upload their location, then nobody knows where they are. So there has to be some other profit motive for the data collection that they're engaged in.
Yeah, it's really interesting and it's kind of scary, honestly, that fact that like they already know, they already almost have it planned that these people are going to come. They have the phones ready for them, and then after that, they're tracking them, and then they have to know. Then they take photos of where they're at, where they're staying. So it's a little sketchy what's going on.
So you were at the Roosevelt Hotel. Got plenty of friends who've been telling me about what's going on out there. I know, just from some of the things that I've watched with your video here, you were talking to one illegal alien who had already received 7 months of residency in the hotel, and he's talking about it's a really nice place. It's all free, which means subsidized, and it's 3 square meals a day. And what else? What else do they do other than just go to sleep, wake up, and are fed? What's the plan at this point? Some of them talk about jobs, but is that something everybody's looking for?
Yeah, it's super interesting, right? That guy had been living there for 7 months, 3 meals a day. Um, and I don't really know what their plans are for them. I think they process them and they give them like kind of papers so they can try to maybe get a job. But I mean, I just saw you go by that hotel and there's little kids outside the windows, like 10 stories up, and the little kids are out there with all their stuffed animals. And so I don't really know if these migrants are trying to work or if more than anything they're just there to chill and figure out what happens.
You said that they have childcare set up for them as well, even though they're not working. They can't take care of their own children.
Yeah, so in the video, right where you're watching, they say like he said they take care of the baby. So there must be some sort of social workers inside of there that are dedicated to the baby because at the hotel it's mainly moms and families, like single moms and families with kids. And so there must be social workers that take care of the babies and stuff like that. And give them, he also said they give them medicine.
Um, there was a migrant at the end who complains that he can't get a job. I mean, that this is what we see. This is what we see a lot. But in the video, he complains that he can't get a job and that he was thinking about leaving. They want to leave. Now, I heard something before we get into that. I heard something about curfews that were being put in place now. It was actually a headline today. Curfews that they want to be putting in place for all of these commandeered hotels and all the people inside of it because of how aggressive the panhandling has become outside. And I just know this recently from going, traveling on the Bronx River Parkway, and these people were literally bobbing and weaving through traffic in the middle of a highway trying to sell apples to everybody. They're just, you want to talk about panhandling, but talk about that a little bit because they were complaining about there's no work, and I saw one of them who says he wishes he never came. Have you gotten a lot of that regret?
Hmm. Yeah, that was the really sad part is they get kind of sold that America's easy. Everyone can get the American dream. Everyone can become millionaires and everyone can get jobs. And they get here and they realize, well, crap, we actually have to really work hard to make a dollar here. And with them not having papers and being illegal, it's literally impossible for them to get jobs, right? At least jobs that get put on government files. And so it's at the end of the day, it's really sad for these immigrants as well because they just get fed a lot of false hope. They get here and they're stuck. They're like, well, what do we do? We can't work. We can't get money. If the shelter doesn't give us money, we have to rob. And they couldn't start up a business if they wanted to because they don't have papers. So it's a really sad situation.
Have you spoken with any of them about what was going on in the weeks prior to them leaving for this country? Do any of them ever talk about who organized them, who talked them into going? We know that the United States government has essentially rang the dinner bell by the way that it operates on the border. So if anybody sees that you're just walking in and then you're being pampered like this, then it's just obvious more of that's going to happen. But is there any talk of the organizations that they may be interacting with back in their home countries who are organizing and promoting these treks?
Yeah, so Throughout the journey from South America all the way up to the border, everything is ran by the cartels. And so if you want to get to a certain place, you have to be able to pay off the cartel member $100, $200 per person to pass. And so any person that has actually came through the border here has had to pay the Mexican cartel an X amount of money to let them come through. And then they have what they're called coyotes that guide them to the borderline, and they either make a breach in the fence or they sneak them in another way.
Hmm. Um, yeah, that was one of the questions I wanted to ask you as far as, what the cartel presence or involvement has been, because that's all we hear about is coyotes, and the trafficking that's going on, children traveling alone, the abuse, the drug abuse. I just saw a this really harrowing video from the border last night of all of these foreign nationals that are just sitting around trying to nurse what was like a half a dozen to 10 or maybe a dozen children who seem totally drugged up. Why is everybody so sedated? It's crazy to see what's happening to children. It's so much more, but about that, what do you see as far as men, women, and children ratio here?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot more middle-aged men, especially in New York, where I went to two shelters in New York. I went to the Roosevelt Hotel and I went to another shelter. Now, the other shelter, it was just thousands of middle-aged men, um, 20, 30s, 40s, that were out there, and there was literally thousands of them, and a lot of them from Africa and a lot of them from Latin America. It's
And how are you able to sneak into? Because I know you conducted a lot of interviews outside,
pretty,
which were edifying and illuminating in themselves, but you were also able to sneak into a shelter. Tell us about how you got in, and then how long you stayed in. Just the entire mission of getting into one of those buildings, and what you did when you were inside.
yeah, so that was pretty scary, to be honest.
Dude, he takes balls. That's ballsy right there. Good for you.
Yeah, yeah, it was pretty ballsy. And so what I did to sneak in is I noticed that like at the front door they had two workers up there, and I literally just walked through. I put on a construction vest, and then I just walked through, and I didn't ask questions. I didn't say, "Can I go by?" I just walked right in, and then I went downstairs, and I was kind of confused and kind of lost inside the building. I didn't want to draw attention to myself, and so I was like, "Where's the bathroom?" And I went to the bathroom. That was really sad too. There was just people that were just like washing their feet with this gross water to clean themselves.
Mm.
And then I left the bathroom, and I started seeing that they had all so that shelter was a school. And so it had the classrooms. Instead of the classrooms having names on them, it had numbers. And it'd be like 8,000 to 8,500, 9,000 to 9,500. And based on that, they'd have wristbands, and those wristbands would tell them what room they need to go to, and then from there, that'd be like the place they could stay and receive what they had. And as I was filming, one of the workers stopped me and he said, "Hey, are you filming?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm just like documenting what's going on." He's like, "Well, you can't be doing that." I was like, "Yeah, no worries. Like, I'm just documenting what's going on." And I kind of started leaving around, and then I started walking back. I was like, "Oh shoot! Like he's gonna, like this could be bad. Like I could get trapped inside of here." Because at the door there was security. That's who I snuck through. So I snuck by, and I keep hearing him in the background saying, "Hey, that guy was filming. That guy was filming. That guy was filming." And he started to cause a scene, and I just hurried and booked it out of there, and I ran out of there so fast.
My,
It was pretty scary.
dude, it was. I mean, they have. I know that it's right hidden in plain sight, and there's plenty of information about what's going on in the inside, because a lot of what's going on in the inside is spilling into the outside. But still, they are guarding these places like you wouldn't believe. So when
Oh yeah, it's totally. If you're a U.S. citizen, like at the hotel, my mom, she tried to ask. She said, "Hey, can I come in if I was a U.S. citizen and I was homeless?" And they said, "No, absolutely not. It's only allowed to the migrants."
do you now we know you were just talking a little bit about the conditions of those shared bathrooms, people washing their feet and all that stuff. That's the least of it. You got to wash your feet. You got to wash your feet. But the conditions of the hotels I know are just it's just squalid, and I've had plenty of people get in touch with us. There's also been some really incredible reporting on just how bad the just the hygienic condition of the whole building is at this point, and the people inside. What about the things that we have heard about aggravated assault, sexual abuse, child neglect? Did you get anything on that from the people who've been there for a couple of months and had something to say about the place?
No, I didn't, but I'm sure it's happening. Um, it's like it's just a sad scene all around. Like I feel really bad for these people, and it's not right for the Americans either because it's our money, right? And
Yeah.
these people are fed false hope that everything's going to be good here, and just it's not. There's just too many people, and it just makes it really hard for
I'm
things
with
to
you on
come
that,
out.
man. And that's the thing that gets me when we have these conversations. There's waves of anger and resentment that come in, and then there are when you kind of the emotions simmer down a little bit, and you just look at people for the human beings that they are, and you realize how it's not so much. It's not even so much that they think they're going to get a free, easy ride, which many of them do believe that. It's that they're being used and they're being tricked, and
Hmm.
somebody very, very powerful, powerful enough to be able to commandeer a major metropolitan area like this and to bend it and turn it into a refugee camp, that takes a lot of power to be able to do this to American cities and to sponsor this kind of human trafficking. So there's a lot of anger, there's resentment, then there's waves of compassion and guilt for feeling a certain way about people who are obviously getting used. But you know what? It's tough. And but there are other shocking parts of the work that you've done, and I don't want to take too much more time from you because you've already been so generous with me in this very short notice. But tell us about the social workers that you found out who are moving and trafficking kids around from the subway.
Yeah, it's really weird. When I was at the Roosevelt Hotel, I saw two people walk through, and it said "homeless outreach" on their back shirts, but they're bringing in children and families into the Roosevelt Hotel. And as they're leaving, I was like, "Hey, I just lived in South America. I'm trying to document what's going on." And they're like, "Hey, we can't speak right now. Like, we're on the clock. We can't talk to you." I was like, "Are you guys legally allowed to talk to me?" And the lady just yells, "No, we're not." I was like, "What the heck?" And
Hmm.
so I was like, "All right." I was like, "All right, we're gonna follow them. We're gonna see where they're bringing these people in from." So we're following them. We're following them for probably like 5 minutes or so, and they take us to Grand Central, and I'm like, "What? Why are they taking us to the subway?" And so what they're doing is they're taking these people from other cities like New Jersey or the Bronx, and because they closed off the port of entry, so the buses can't come to New York anymore. And so instead, they're just bringing people in through the subway versus just bringing buses in. So they have these social workers that bring in these people from the subway into the hotels. That was like the weirdest, strangest part. And then them saying they're legally not allowed to talk about it was a little weird.
See, here it is again. The secrecy. They know that we all know it's happening. But instead of just saying, "Hey, this is the way it is," say, "Well, how can we do what is obvious in a little bit less obvious way?" And I guess they just didn't want the optics of bus after bus showing up to in front of these already overpacked buildings in the city, that they just move them around underground and just have them pop out of the sidewalk as close to the location that they're going as possible, so they can just, I don't know, blend in with the average. I don't know. It's just nuts. That's just incredible. And a lot of those people are younger because you really specified children with that.
Yeah. In my video, you can see there's one part where I'm doing a voiceover, and literally like 10 to 20 people leave the hotel. And so there's just a lot of kids, a lot of kids that have to go through this process, and it's just really sad for them too. They're just like, what is going on? They're
Man.
little kids, they're innocent.
Well, you've already done much more in giving people a glimpse into the reality of this stuff than, like I said, than the corporate media has done in years. And there's a lot of people like you who just want to be out there and on the scene. But you're from Utah, so you can't do that. Are you back in Utah now?
Yeah, right now I'm back in Utah for the next little bit. I have some videos stacked up that I need to edit, and then I'll be hitting the road again.
And is this something you want to, because you seem pretty young. What are you, 18, 19, 20?
Yeah, I'm 21.
Well, listen, you can tell that you're young, and the fact that you're doing something so big. I wasn't doing this at 21, or what you're doing, just getting out like that and traveling for your work. But is this something you wanted to do with your life, or is it something you're just finding that you love right now?
Yeah, and so I've been doing YouTube for the past 5 years, whatever, and then I had to take a 2-year break when I was in South America. And being in South America really gave me a different perspective and it gave me new tools too. I speak Spanish, and so I really want to be able to show what's happening to these people, and to show the world that like America, we are so blessed here that we really need to understand how blessed we are. And a lot of these people just aren't people that are just coming in to do crime. A lot of people are good people, but they're being fed this dream and it's not right what's going on. And so I'll be in my channel, I'll be talking about and covering the migrant crisis, and as well, like I have a video where I would go to the hood in New Orleans with an ex-murderer, and I went to campuses in like BYU and asked them about stuff. And so I kind of cover everything, but it's more investigation journalism stuff. And this is what I'm going to be trying to do for my future as well. So
Wow.
it's going to be.
Well, listen, this is it's great. It's great. I just found you today, and I said, "Oh man, let me just take a shot to see if he'll respond." And I'm glad that you're here. I'm subscribed to you now, especially since you're doing a lot of things in gaining insight into younger generations. I think that is especially valuable. I have your channel up on the screen right now. That is Nick Shirley on YouTube. I hope everybody goes and checks him out. And anything you want to leave us with, Nick?
Yeah, just thank you so much for your time and for giving me the opportunity to talk about this. And yeah, like it says up there, subscribe for the truth, because that's all I'll be spitting for the next years. So thank you so much.
You got it, man. And we'll be in touch. And anything I can do, if you have new pieces coming out, anything that you think would be of interest to the audience, just send it my way, and we'll keep in touch.
Awesome, man. I'd love to come on again.
Oh, definitely. You definitely will. There's Nick Shirley, everybody, young man getting his career started and building a brand. And like I said, very valuable brand.